Good morning, folks. I'm on my way to my 9 to 5. I'm on my way to my project. It's 92 miles away. It's 97 miles one way. It usually takes me about an hour 50 minutes to get to my destination, and coming back home, it depends on what time I leave in the afternoon. It might take me 2.5 hours to make it back home. But such is what I do, and I wouldn't be doing otherwise if I weren't happy. I want to show you this beautiful landscape. Look at this. Look at this in the background. Oh, isn't that amazing? Welcome to sunny, partly cloudy, sunny again. I'm saying sunny because I want the sun to come out. It's out, of course, obviously. It's just obscured by clouds. But look at this range. Isn't it beautiful? Wow. How majestic. Look who decided to show its face. Mr. Sun. Late start today. Well, not late. For me, I can get to my project at any time. And when I have activity on site, I usually leave around 3:45 in the morning to get there early and get everything set up. But once I don't have any construction activity, then I leave the house around 7, get there between 8:30 and 9. Spend a few hours there, and it's usually a short day when I don't have any construction activity, and I return home. More minutes before I arrive at my location, and once I get to the office, I'll do a bit of a setup and meet with individuals I'm going to meet and get some knitting done. I'm going to continue practicing my Continental knitting, and I'm going to be doing some, what am I going to be doing? I think pearls, that's what it's called, purling. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic, phenomenal day today. Driving, here's what I'm thinking. So, as you know, this channel is about knitting, and it's also about manifesting. And you will see the knitting in practice. The manifesting, however, is what I'll be sharing with you. Once again, I'll start off with, well, you know what? I'll just get into it. So here is how I became a student of Neville Goddard. So I have been actively practicing what I've been learning from Neville for the last 3 years. And once again, it has produced tremendous results. I was introduced to Neville by Reverend Ike, Reverend Frederick Eikenkorder, like 1990s, around 1997. Reverend Ike was a extremely popular evangelist whose message was based on the science of mind. So although he had a church with members that looked like every other church or any other church, his core principles were not like any other denomination. He was a wealthy individual, and he taught the laws of prosperity to his congregants, and many people who applied his messages became millionaires. And we're talking about at the heyday, the 70s, the late 60s and the 70s. So Reverend Ike was a student of Neville as well, and he included and shaped his theology based on his understanding of the law of assumption, his understanding of the Bible being an esoteric book more than, a historical book. So that's my background as it relates to being introduced to Neville. Of course, 20 years would have passed, and I did not really give any thought to the works of Neville again. I actually didn't remember it until 2020. Actually, it was a little before that. Yeah, it was before that. 2020 was when I really started delving into studying every facet of anything Neville wrote or shared via his messages on his audio messages. So 2015, 2016 was when I started paying attention to Neville's work. So my project is right there. I'll be pulling into parking shortly. So I'm in construction, and this is my mobile office. So I'm into construction, and we will be building a medical office right here. So this is where I'm at. I'm gonna park and unlock the gate, and I'll see you shortly. So I'm parked, and I keep the gate closed since it's a construction site. And this is where I'm at. This is my company. This is my truck. And this is my office. This is my workspace. This is where I do most of my work. I have my printer here. I have my construction PPE, personal protective equipment. I have my refrigerator here. It's a full-size fridge, just stocked with water right now. This is another office. These are the set of plans. Outside, I'll show you in a bit. Earlier in this episode, you heard me mention Neville Goddard. Well, I would like to tell you a little bit more about Neville. Neville was born in 1905 on the island of Barbados in the West Indies, Caribbean, and he transitioned from this world in 1972 at the age of 67. Neville did not ascribe any isms, as he called it, to himself. Neville did not associate himself with any label except that of being a Christian, but not a Christian in the conventional way of thinking. Neville believed the Bible to be a spiritual, allegorical tale whose characters symbolized states of consciousness. The core tenets of Neville's philosophy rested on two pillars: the law and the promise. Most of what I'll be sharing with you will come from the law and not so much the promise, The promise, according to Neville believed that everyone is destined to be awakened as his or her highest transcendent state, which is God, and the law is centered on the law of assumption. The law of assumption states that imagination is the only reality. Imagination and causation are one thing. In fact, causation stems from the imagination. So think of cause and effect. Imagination is the cause, and everything we experience in objective reality is the effect. So the law of assumption declares that everything is done. That means creation is finished, and because creation is finished, everything that exists in the nowness of consciousness. So whatever you desire to be, do, and have, you don't have to seek to be those things. You don't have to seek to be, you don't have to seek to do, and you do not have to seek to have. Because creation is already finished according to the law of assumption and everything exists in your own wonderful human imagination, all you have to see is your I amness. I am, what does that mean? It means anything that follows I am, you become. Whatever you feel yourself to be, whatever you see yourself to be, because creation is already completed and you see yourself as those things, you are identifying in or from a particular state as a completed person. So when you have a person who feels frustrated by not hitting or realizing his or her purpose, what that person is experiencing is completion. To that individual, it may not seem complete, but every cause yields a perfect effect. So, whatever you desire to be, you have to see yourself as already that. Every cause yields a perfect effect. So, once again, nothing happens to you. Nothing. So, nothing happens to you, everything happens from you. So, whatever result, outcome, desire that resonates with you, that you harmonize with, or the exact desires you will experience, because those desires already exist in the nowness of consciousness. So, a person who is living in a poverty state of consciousness, that person is living in a state of completion. Why? How is that possible? Because that person shaped his or her reality based on his or her imagination. And because imagination is causation, and because causation is complete, that person is living in a state of completeness, even in pathology, toxicity, and dysfunction. So many times we hear people say, hey, they should know better. Why didn't they know better? Well, that person was living and identifying with a state of completion, hence that person's reality. It's not until your paradigm is shifted and new information is introduced to you will you become and adjust and harmonize with the better you. So as you grow, you grow. Growth takes place when positive things are planted in the inside from within. So what do we do when we see someone else struggling? We don't condemn or criticize that individual. What we do is acknowledge that that person is living from a state of consciousness that yields the results in that person's life. And what we can also do is to revise that person's reality from our own imagination. So if I see my brother is struggling with unemployment, rather than say, oh, he's a lazy bum or he just don't like working, what I can construct in my mind is see him gainfully employed, see him making more money than he's ever made. Go to sleep in the assumption, knowing that he has found a place he can call home and he can do something he'll be proud of, something that will bring more money than he's ever seen in his life. That's what you do for that individual. So the law of assumption removes the critical and the judgmental part of self, and it casts it aside because there's no room for judgment when there's growth opportunity available for every single person, including me, including you. Your sole purpose, therefore, is to use your imagination wisely and lovingly, giving sensory vividness to your definite chief aim, dreams, and ambitions. And practice the presence of whatever you desire to be. And by practicing the presence of whatever you desire to be, will bring that idea, that want, that wish to its fulfillment. If happiness is what you desire, practice the presence of happiness by living and feeling yourself as a happy person. If love is what you desire, practice the presence of love by being a loving person. Fall asleep in the assumption that there isn't anyone like you who is as lovable as you, who deserves to experience love in its fullness. So until then, remember that whatever follows I am, you become. Peace.